The ultrasound photo was still warm from the printer, a grainy black and white promise of tiny fingers and toes, when I felt the first true kick. It was a flutter, a secret hello from the life growing inside me, my second child. I placed my husband Ben's hand on the curve of my belly, his wedding band cool against my skin. "Feel that," I whispered, tears of pure joy prickling my eyes. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. It hadn't for months. I told myself it was stress. The new mortgage, the demands of our toddler, the impending chaos of a newborn. I told myself a lot of things. My mother became my sanctuary. With Ben distant and preoccupied, she was my constant. She brought over meals, cleaned my house, and took our daughter to the park so I could rest. She'd rub my swollen feet and tell me stories of her own pregnancies, her voice a soothing balm. "He's just a man, honey," she'd say, nodding toward Ben's home office door. "They don't understand the weight we carry, but I'm here." I believed her. I leaned on her. The irony is so thick now it chokes me. The cracks were small at first. A shared glance between them that lasted a second too long at the dinner table. A private joke I wasn't part of. Ben mentioning my mother's opinion on a financial decision before he'd mentioned mine. I was a planet, heavy and slow, orbiting a sun that seemed to be warming someone else. The nausea I felt wasn't just morning sickness. The lie unraveled because of a strawberry. A single, perfect strawberry left in a saucer on my mother's coffee table during one of my daughter's playdates there. Ben is violently, dangerously allergic to strawberries. Anaphylactic shock allergic. He carries an EpiPen. He hasn't eaten one since he was 6, yet there was the green stem, discarded, and next to it, a single, familiar silver cufflink. The one I'd given Ben for our last anniversary, engraved with coordinates of where we first met. The one he'd told me he lost at the gym 2 months prior. The ground fell away. The proof wasn't in a text or a mail. It was in a piece of fruit and a piece of jewelry. A carelessness born of a terrifying familiarity. I didn't confront them. Instead, I became a ghost in my own home. I watched. I saw the way his hand would linger on her shoulder when she left. The way she'd adjust his collar, a gesture so wifely it stole my breath. I heard the low murmur of their voices in the kitchen long after I'd gone to bed, a sound I'd mistaken for comfort. The confrontation happened in my mother's living room, the scene of their crime. I brought my daughter over, as usual. My mother was giddy, nervous. "I have news," she chirped, her eyes sparkling with a girlish light I hadn't seen in years. Before she could speak, I held up the cufflink. The blood drained from her face, leaving her looking old and crumpled. Ben, who had stopped by unexpectedly, froze in the doorway. The words that followed were a torrent of ugly, desperate truth. They spoke of a connection, of finding solace in each other during my difficult pregnancy. They used my tiredness, my emotional distance, as their justification. My mother cried. But they were tears of self-pity. "You have to understand. We never meant to hurt you," she wept. Ben just stared at the floor. His silence more damning than any apology. The life inside me rolled and kicked, a frantic prisoner in a collapsing world. I left that house and drove straight to my lawyer. Grief was a luxury. Rage was a fuel. I used it. The divorce papers were served to him at his office, the restraining order against my mother forbidden from contacting me or my children was delivered the same day. I spelled out the reason in cold, clinical legalese. Gross violation of maternal and familial trust constituting intentional infliction of emotional distress. I did not hide their sin. When friends and family asked, I told them the plain, devastating truth. My mother and my husband are having an affair. I am pregnant with his second. Child, let the social fallout burn around them. Let them seek comfort in each other while their world shrinks to the size of their shame. The final act was born in a cold, clear moment of resolution. Ben begged for custody rights. He wanted to be a father to this new baby, the child conceived in the same breath as his betrayal. My lawyer was a steel-eyed woman who asked me one question: what do you want the rest of your life to look like? I knew. I wanted them erased. In the settlement, I demanded full, sole, and irrevocable legal and physical custody of both my children. In exchange, I waived all future child support. I sold the house he once shared with his secret lover, my mother. I took every penny of our savings, every shred of equity. He agreed to it all, a man hollowed out by the consequences of his own actions. He signed away his right to be a father to our son, who was born 3 weeks later. On the birth certificate, the line for father remains blank. I gave my son my maiden name. My mother sends letters, which I return unopened. She tries to see my daughter, but the legal wall is absolute. She is a grandmother to ghosts. Ben lives in another city now. I hear he is alone. Their affair, it seems, could not survive the harsh, oxygenated air of reality, once the cozy, secret dark where it thrived was ripped away. I look at my children, now my fierce daughter and my sweet, fatherless son. The anger has cooled into a permanent, protective frost. They will never know the people who broke me. They will never feel the confusion of a grandfather who was also a betrayer, or a grandmother whose love was a poisoned well. The legacy of that affair is not a broken home. It is a home I built from the rubble, with doors locked firmly against the past. My son's first word was Mama. It is the only name he will ever need for a parent, and in the quiet of our new, peaceful life, that word is the only apology I will ever accept. It is the sound of a family, whole and safe, on the other side of the wreckage.